Hey all, this is Scott from Calendula Farm and Nursery. Welcome to Notes from Nome. On this episode, we're going to talk about pruning your stone fruit trees in late winter. Here in Western Washington, in the Puget Sound area, you know that we're in Tacoma. Those of you who know us, we're in Tacoma, and we have a very long wet period, and it's really important with any of the stone fruits to make sure that you don't set up a situation that encourages fungus or bacterial diseases. So the time to do it is just before they wake up, just before the sap starts flowing and the buds start opening. You want to catch it and do all the pruning then, so that the wounds that you create have a chance to heal fairly quickly within a matter of weeks when the plant wakes up. So that being said, let's get to the details. I'll show you how. So one of the first things you want to look for are obvious branches like this one. You want to get rid of anything that goes horizontal right through the middle of the tree like this one's doing, and actually a couple of its partners are going sideways right through the middle of the canopy and out the other side. Those are just going to lead to trouble if they are allowed to grow. The other one you want to look for, if we come around here, there's a dead branch. You want to look for anything that's dead or broken. You can see this dark one that kind of arches up. It's all hung up on the larger branch that was just below it. You want to pull that down and get rid of that, like so. That's super easy. And then the other thing you want to look for are any of the branches like these guys that are going to go straight up, and this one goes up, gosh, probably a good 8 or 9 feet. So any of the straight up vertical ones, and they also look kind of fresh. You can kind of tell the wood down below here is all sort of crusty and older looking. That's several years old. This is just last year's growth that comes up like this. That you want to take off at its base where it connects to the larger branch, and do that all over the entire tree. If anything, I'd say that that's the most labor intensive thing about pruning a fruit tree at all every year. You need to keep up with that, because if you don't, those will get away from you and your job will be 3 times harder the next year. So do a little bit each year and you'll stay ahead of the game. Here's the other thing you want to look for is off the big branch right here, you see coming up all these little tiny twigs, and these are maybe 8 to 10 inches long, and they're completely covered in buds that will mostly become fruit if they all get pollinated. And then next to that, you can see there's this other one that's going up, 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 up. That one can come off. But what you want to do is when there's a nest of little twiggies, like here's another good example right here, little twigs that are just too many all in one group, you just want to reduce those down to a smaller number. You can do this by trying to imagine what's going to happen when the fruit gets forming on here, and if there's 12 fruits on one little tiny twig, then obviously that twig isn't going to hold up. So you want to try to take some of the weight off. You can even trim it back down to about 6 inches, and that will help the tree put all of its energy into the buds on sturdier branches, and everybody wins. You get more fruit, the tree is healthier. One of the things that can be very intimidating for people who are pruning their own trees is knowing the difference between leaf buds and flower buds. This part of the branch is a great example of both of those. Off on the left here, that little short spur of those fat, round, pudgy, plump little buds, those are going to become flower buds and therefore fruiting buds, assuming they all get pollinated. And over on the right here, on this branch going up, you can see the much smaller little buds that are along that branch. They're sort of oval, sort of egg-shaped, with a little bit of a pointy tip to them. Those smaller ones are going to become leaves. So when you do your pruning, our goal is to leave a good amount of these plump, round ones that come out typically on short spurs from older wood. You can see the bark is forming on this branch. It's a few years old. It's at least 2 years old. And the leaves are out on this 1-year-old branch. Another really quick way to tell the difference between what is a flowering fruiting bud and what is a leaf bud is the arrangement of the buds on the branches. And this is a great example. Again, the flowering and fruiting ones are that little tight cluster of plump round buds on the left, the leaf buds on the right, on that branch going upward. The difference is that the flowering buds typically will be in tight clusters of maybe 3 to a dozen or more in a group, just like you see here. And the leaf buds are going to be more widely spaced along a branch like this, and they usually are going to be in clusters of maybe 1, 2, or possibly 3, but far fewer, and again, they're smaller than the flowering buds. Here's another great example of the difference between the flower buds and the leaf buds. What's also important to know is that 1-year-old growth, which is last year's growth, that's this branch that's going off to the side here with just leaf buds on it, that is all that will do. 1-year-old growth is only going to turn into leaves the following year, and then it will be old enough the year after that to form the fruit, which is why we have this bigger branch with all these short spurs coming off of it. The short spurs are the fruiting parts coming off of 2- and 3-year-old wood. So we just keep on going like that. Here's another vertical one that needs to be taken off. We'll do that one right now. There it goes. So this is what we have left. A nice short stubs with lots of buds on them. Oh, there's one right here. There's actually 3 little branchlets right here. I'm going to get rid of 2 of those and this dead one. And then what we're left with is that. That's what to shoot for. I'll show you a picture once I'm all done. And here we are, a little over an hour later, and the entire tree is done. You can see all the little short spurs that I've left on. Those are going to be the fruit producing pieces. I've left a couple of these last year's growth a little bit longer so that they can become larger branches next year and start fruiting then. In the meantime, I have a tree that is all ready to go. Thanks for watching.